What's up, it's Tom. Thanks for clicking on this video. Today we're going to discuss the guys the Twins have to add to the 40-man roster this offseason to protect them from being eligible for the Rule 5 draft. This is a little bit early, I realize, early in the offseason, but I think this is a really huge centerpiece to the Twins planning this offseason. They have a lot of guys that they're going to need to add to the 40-man roster, so that's going to be a big part of their offseason. Talk about these guys listed here and many others. But first, let's kind of give you a picture of the 40-man roster situation as things stands. Christian Vasquez is the Twins' only remaining free agent. He will bring the 40-man roster number down to 38. If you agree with my last video and you buy into my plan of non-tendering Justin Topa, Michael Tonkin, Yenesis Cabrera, and Anthony Masevich, that brings us down to 34. And if you're not on board with that, maybe this conversation will help change your mind and get you motivated to clear some more space. I also, in that last video, talked about how Trevor Larnach should either be traded or non-tendered as well. And then Thomas Hatch, a reliever who's currently on the 40-man, is a guy I would DFA. So we do all those moves that I'm laying out. That would bring us down to 32 guys on the 40-man roster. So that sounds like a good amount of space, right? I would still even go further. In this hypothetical scenario, we're not going to DFA these guys, but I would seriously consider it at this point. Jose Miranda, Edouard Julien, James Outman, and Johnny Pereda. They're so thin at catcher that Pereda has a good reason to stick around. But those other three, I mean, they're three guys that are not only stalled out, but they're all out of options. So they really handcuff you roster-wise. Again, I don't think the Twins are ready to go there this early. We'll see. But I'll say they'll stay for now, and then maybe as the offseason rolls on, those are kind of your first most likely guys to get DFA'd after, you might add some guys. So with that roster trimming, the other guys we did mention we were getting rid of, that brings us down to 32. But let's look at the guys they have to add, because that sounds like a lot of space. But let's break this down. Rule 5 draft eligible pitchers. Again, this conversation is happening a little early, but I wanted to go here because I think it's important. But the Twins have, I think, until November 20th is the deadline. And of course, being the Derek Falvey era Twins, they will wait to announce these until probably after the deadline is when we'll hear about them. They'll wait to the final minutes. But Connor Prielipp, Andrew Morris, and Kendry Rojas. Kendry Rojas, the guy they acquired in the Louis Varland trade from Toronto. I think those three guys are locks to be added. CJ Culpepper is going to be eligible. I think he's a likely add. And then Jose Olivares is kind of a wild card I'm going to throw out there. Sometimes the Twins have added some guys that have surprised me. Brent Hedrick comes to mind back when they did that. Travis Adams this last year was a bit of a surprise. And pitching is more likely to be selected in the Rule 5 draft, and I think more likely to be carried through the whole year. 3 for sure. I think they would like to add CJ Culpepper too, even though he had a disappointing end to the year. He's still a very intriguing arm, I would say. Jose Olivares too didn't have as good of numbers as you would hope to look for, but again, the arm talent is really there. Good fastball. I think he could be a really good reliever potentially someday down the road. Hitters. This is where it gets tricky. Hitters are, I feel like, a little bit less likely to be taken in the Rule 5 draft, so teams kind of take more chances on not protecting them. And then when they are taken, I feel like it's a little bit less likely they would stick on a Major League roster for a whole year. So you could maybe get away with some things more on this end. Gabriel Gonzalez and Hendry Mendez, though, those guys are still locks to me. Mendez, a guy they acquired from Philadelphia. I get the two trades mixed up sometimes, but I think he came over in the Harrison Bader trade. Either way, he came over from the Phillies, so brand new to the system. They're obviously not going to risk losing him, a couple months after they traded for him. Kalai Rosario, I'm putting in the likely guy who had a tremendous second half of this past season. Again, I don't know that it would really hurt to lose him, but I don't know that teams would look at him and think of him as a guy that could potentially carry throughout an entire season. So I could see the Twins potentially saying, we're going to risk it. We're not going to protect Kalai Rosario. Same thing about Kyler Fedko, dude coming off a massive massive season, breakout season, Kyler Fedko, and kept performing after he got promoted to AAA. So another guy who that would really sting if he were to get claimed. But we're going to talk about the outfield some more in a minute. This outfield picture of the Twins is incredibly crowded as is before we go into adding guys. Other guys on the possible list, Tanner Schobel, an infielder, missed a lot of time this past season, unfortunately. But, a guy they drafted, was he a second rounder a few years back? They're going to want to keep him in the system if they can. I can't imagine him being added, but he'll be definitely in the conversation. Ricardo Olivar is a guy who's been eligible for the Rule 5 draft a couple times, and they've not protected him. A catcher/outfielder. He'll be in the conversation, but I don't think he'll get protected. Noah Cardenas is kind of my wild card I'm throwing out here. A catcher who made it up to St. Paul last season. And again, that's kind of more so because the Twins are so thin at catcher right now. But I think he'll be in the conversation, but probably not added. So, after adding my 5 Rule 5 draft protection locks, we would be getting back up to 37 players on the 40-man roster. And if you really want to add those 2 more likely guys, CJ Culpepper and Kalai Rosario, we'd be at 39. And teams do like to leave some spots open during the offseason. Technically, you could fill up your 40-man roster, and then just as you add guys, you would just like DFA one of those guys I listed earlier, Miranda, Julian, Outman, and Pareda. So it's not like you can't get to 40, but most teams, and the Twins in particular, like to leave some spots open as they go through the offseason so they can claim guys off waivers, maybe make a Rule 5 draft pick of their own, or I had to put a ha at the end of this one, sign free agents. So the main takeaway, the Twins do need to clear some space on their roster. And while they're likely to explore trading away veterans, I also think they have the depth to potentially trade away an outfield prospect. Obviously they're not probably going to be in the position to take on anyone with money. But if you're trying to figure out some creative ways to address this bullpen, I think maybe that's one of them, is to potentially try to trade away some outfield depth to a team that's in need for an intriguing potential bullpen arm. Just an idea I wanted to throw out there. But here is the Twins' 2026 outfield picture as things stand. These are all the guys currently on the 40-man roster. So you'd come in with Byron Buxton, Matt Wallner, and Alan Roden right there as the 3-man outfield. Alan Roden came over from the Blue Jays in that Varland trade. He's a guy who's had a great AAA run. He's played in the big some, got hurt, unfortunately, when he came over to the Twins. But if we pretend Trevor Larnach was coming back, I would put Alan Roden over him anyway. Again, I just have a hard time imagining Larnach back, especially when you look at this whole picture. Austin Martin ended the year really well. So he's there. Emmanuel Rodriguez should debut next year. Guy who can't stay healthy, but man, when he's healthy, there's a lot to like there. And then, in addition to these guys already on the 40-man roster, there is Gabriel Gonzalez, Hendry Mendez, who I think, again, both are locks to be added to the 40-man roster. Kalai Rosario and Kyler Fedko are guys you'd love to protect, keep around, guys who are probably going to be poised to make their MLB debuts potentially next year, assuming Fedko can keep up what he's done. And, as I pointed out at the bottom, I'd expect Walker Jenkins to spend at least half of 2026 with the Twins. I don't think there's really any good reason to keep Walker Jenkins. I think he should start. I don't think he should break camp. I think Walker Jenkins should start out the year in the minors. But I don't think it's going to take that long before Walker Jenkins is up with the Twins and playing every day in the outfield. So this outfield picture is ridiculously crowded. So, this was kind of a foundational discussion. Again, we're still ways away from the Twins making these decisions. But I think this is something you got to account for while you're talking about these things, while you're coming up with ideas. But thanks for checking this one out. I really appreciate you. We'll talk again soon.